More than 2 months after the takeover by a Saudi Arabia-backed consortium, the new owners embark on their first transfer window. So what does the next month have in store for Newcastle and the man back there, Eddie Howe? Well, Keith Downey is very much the man in the know and will be reporting for us throughout the month on their business and joins us live from St James's Park now. Good morning, Keith. Great to see you. Those Newcastle fans will be watching now and no doubt filled with optimism that the owners will not just spend, but spend big. However, Keith, it is vital, given where they are in the table, that they get this right, isn't it?
Yeah, Tom, I'm expecting a very busy, a long month ahead as far as Newcastle United are concerned in this transfer window. It seems a very long time ago since the takeover was finally pushed through back on the 7th of October. Since then, the Newcastle United supporters have been desperately waiting for this first transfer window, as you say, under the new ownership, in the hope that they can get the players in that will save them from relegation this season. But it is that R word, Tom, that is the issue for both Eddie Howe and for the new owners here at the club this January, because what they will not want to do is spend big money in this transfer window and then have their team relegated to the Championship next season and having players on very big wages for the Championship next season. So I think it's a really fine balancing act for Amanda Staveley and her team to ensure that they get the right people in this month to give them every chance of staying up in the division, but not give them a financial hurdle then next season should the worst happen and they were to be relegated to the Championship. When you just look at the league table, Tom, at the moment, Newcastle are obviously 2 points from safety. They've played a game more than Watford, who are fourth bottom as well. So they will feel that they can claw up that ground, they can make up that ground if they do bring the right players in. But they're going to have to get to work quickly because it's a busy month as well. We've obviously seen games called off throughout the Premier League. Newcastle have had their last two called off as well, but they've played a few more than many of the other teams, so they know they don't have that much time to work in. So very crucial days in the early days under the new ownership at Newcastle United, that they'll want to make sure that they get this one right. But as I say, they don't have a lot of time to work in, so a real test for them coming up.
Keith, it's Mark in the studio here. I don't know a time when you've ever not been busy, to be honest, particularly when you cover Newcastle. Talking about the manager, Eddie Howe, he's going to be working with a lot of new people at the club as they try and attract new players to Newcastle. Who will be making the big decisions and what will be the main area of focus over the course of this January window?
Yeah, Mark, I know obviously you've worked alongside Eddie Howe when covering Bournemouth in the past. It was a different situation for him there because he was working underneath essentially a director of football. There isn't actually a director of football in place here at Newcastle United in the 2.5 months since the takeover went through. We do know that the club are in talks with Dan Ashworth, the technical director at Brighton, who of course has worked with the FA before and comes very highly regarded. So there has been some initial discussions there after Brighton gave them permission to speak to him in December. But they have yet to appoint anyone in that role. So it's Eddie that will essentially give the nod to which players do and which players don't arrive at the club. So a very busy month for him as well. It's not something that he'll just be leaving to anyone else. And Amanda Staveley and her husband Merdad Gadusi will be at the forefront of that as well. What they have done, Mark, is they have employed Nick Hammond, formerly of Celtic and Reading. He was a director of football at both those clubs. He's here to help out, really, to try and see transfers over the line, essentially a transfer specialist. So he's come in already around a week or so ago. He's already been very busy behind the scenes. A lot will fall on his shoulders this month before Newcastle bring that director of football in. Interestingly, I think a lot of us expected a director of football to be brought in before now. They've decided to do things differently, so they've been very hard work behind the scenes in the lead up to Christmas, and now that the transfer window is open, you would expect things really are going to ramp up now, because as I said to Tom just a moment ago, they'll want to get the players in as soon as possible to give them every single opportunity of staying in the division this season.
And Keith, what players will they be wanting to bring in? Kieran Trippier is a name that's been linked with the club. What can you tell us about that? Is it close?
Yeah, Jess, I think Kieran Trippier has been their #1 target since they arrived. Remember, this is a player that Eddie Howe has had before at Burnley, an England international with, I think, 35 caps for the club, 35 caps for England, of course. He's been in great form for Atletico Madrid. He's been over there for a couple of years now, but I think very keen to come back here to England and play football. Newcastle very keen to bring him here. We brought the news to you on I think it was Saturday now. I'm getting my days mixed up with it being the turn of the year, but we brought to the news to you on Saturday that Newcastle had lodged that bid for Trippier. Diego Simeone has spoken a couple of times since then. Just yesterday, after their match, which they won 2-0 against Rayo Vallecano, he said, nowadays when a player wants to leave, he cannot be retained. It's up to Kieran now. So that suggests that a deal essentially has been struck between the two clubs, and Newcastle have reached that asking price with Atletico Madrid for the player. Having spoken to sources here at the club, it's my understanding that Newcastle hope to get this one concluded swiftly, and it is a player we could see arriving here in the northeast at some point this week, and he would be the first signing of the new regime. So it would carry a lot of weight, that one, with the Newcastle United supporters as well, and I suppose someone they would like to see at the club. As I say, an England international. Of course, he was involved in the Euros in the summer. Newcastle don't sign too many England internationals these days, so it could just be a sign of things to come if they were to bring someone with the pedigree of Kieran Trippier in the first few days of the very first transfer window.
Now, Keith, there's no doubt about it, there'll be plenty of names bandied about, and I'm sure your phone will be extremely busy throughout all of January with names being mentioned. But who could we see potentially joining the club other than Kieran Trippier?
Kyle, I think I started counting at one point after the takeover went through at the start of October, and I think I got to about 127 different names that had been linked to the club in the build-up to Christmas. And I think that is because any agent worth their salt right now will want to link their player to Newcastle. They know that Newcastle desperately need reinforcements, and they know that they've got money to spend. So without doubt, there's going to be a lot of players linked to this club. Trippier was one from the start when Eddie Howe arrived that he wanted to bring in. I think he was probably already on the club's radar at that moment as well. I think they probably need to bring in at least 4 new signings. As well as Trippier, I think they probably need another full-back. Whether they do manage to get that or not remains to be seen. Remember, Trippier can play on both sides. They need a centre-back without doubt as well. They've conceded a lot of goals in the Premier League this season, and they've really struggled to keep the door closed at the back. Not keeping, well, I think they've only kept 1 clean sheet so far this season. So Sven Botman of Lille is another player that I really expect Newcastle to go strong for this window. He's got all the attributes of what they need. He's a young player, developing, set to be an international player as well, and he could stay here if they get him for the next 5 or 6 years. So I think Sven Botman, the Dutch player from Lille, is a player that they're definitely interested in, is one that we could see arrive here at some stage. There's other defenders as well. Joe Rodon at Spurs, who I think would be available on a loan deal, providing the COVID situation at Spurs doesn't get difficult. I think that's one they could be interested in. And Jason Denayer, the former Sunderland defender, is a player that the club are interested in as well. Interestingly as well, you've got to look at the injury situation here at Newcastle. They were looking for a striker anyway until Callum Wilson picked up that injury to his calf against Manchester United here at St James's Park last week, which looks like it might keep him out for a couple of months. So I think that now Eddie Howe's going to think, we don't just need one striker, I probably need 2 as well to see him through the next couple of months. So there's a raft of forwards that have been linked to the club as well. I think it is very early days in the window. I think we're going to be very busy as the days tick down towards the end. But I think Newcastle at the moment concentrating on getting Kieran Trippier in. He is their number 1 target. As I say, he can play a number of positions across the back 4. Once they get him in, I think they'll then turn their attentions to potentially adding a centre back and then at least a striker or 2 as well. But yeah, I'm expecting it to be very busy here this month, with the first month or the first transfer window under the new ownership being a very crucial period for this football club moving forward.